In today's video, we're going to check out the old but gold Canon 55-250 STM lens, which I've just converted from an EF mount to an EF mount. So pretty much what I did in my last video with the Canon 10-18 STM lens. I'm going to show you guys what it takes to mod this thing, as well as some awesome raw sample footage, which I'll show later on in the video. So stick around and let's see what this little guy can bring to the table. The Canon EFS 55-250 STM lens is an inexpensive, light, entry-level telephoto zoom lens that has image stabilization, really good image quality for the price, and a very useful focal range that will nicely complement most general purpose zoom lenses such as the Canon 18-55 kit lens. Now, unlike Canon's full frame EF mount made for full frame lenses, this is a Canon EF mount which is made for Canon aps-c crop centered cameras, and you cannot mount this on a full frame, otherwise you'll get vignettes. But this is where the EFS to EF mod comes in handy. This is a $40 Canon EFS to EF mount converter, specific for the Canon 55-250 STM lens, which will allow you to mount this aps-c lens on Canon's full frame cameras, or aps-c cameras with an EF Speedbooster, such as those with the Canon M50 or the EOS M. Now, without this mod adapter, this lens is pretty much useless to full frame cameras, as well as Speedboosters, because when you try to mount them onto your cameras or on the Speedbooster, the back sort of protrudes and you can't really twist it on the mount. So now with this mod, you're able to fit this on Speedboosters and full frame cameras because of the way that the creators have shaped the back of this adapter, which is fantastic, I reckon, for the price. Now, to mount this adapter, all you need to do is unscrew the 4 screws on the back of the lens, as well as the 3 tiny screws at the tip. So in total, you should have about 7 screws. After you've done that, then you take out the original Canon mount on the back, and I've already done this, and then you swap it with the brand new EF mount. So that's pretty cool, huh? Well, not so fast. Actually, there's some good and some bad about this, so let's get into that. If you're planning to use this on a full frame sensor, you're going to expect a vignette for photos and videos. You're going to get this black image circle around your videos and photos, and it's not going to look good. However, there is a fix, and the way I go about doing this is by using a budget 1.4 times Teleconverter, and then the vignette will disappear at all focal lengths in both photo and video mode. So now you can pretty much use this budget kit zoom lens with a range of 55-250 on your full frame Canon cameras, which is really awesome. If you're using Speedboosters, then a Teleconverter will also help. If you're shooting with the Canon M50, it has a 4K with a 2.5 crop, so just mount it on the Speedbooster, no Teleconverter required. If you're using Magic Lantern, you can also do without a Teleconverter because you can use the crop modes in the high resolutions, and those have like crop factors of 2 times or 3 times. So you're pretty much good to go with this lens. Now, before I show you guys some raw footage, I mainly use this lens mod with my Canon EOS M camera, which has a 1.6 times crop factor. However, now that this lens has been modded, I can now attach this lens to my Speedbooster, which widens the field of view by 0.71 times. Now, if I multiply 55 by 1.6 and then by 0.71, thanks to the Speedbooster, I get an equivalent field of view of about 62 millimeters. And if I do the same to the long end at 250 mil, then I get 284 millimeters. So now with the Speedbooster, I get a 62 to 284 millimeter equivalent field of view in comparison to full frame. Now, another thing that's really cool about adding this lens to a Speedbooster is that it adds an extra stop of light. So now your fastest aperture of f3.5 now becomes an f2.8 on the wider focal length, which means you get shallow depth of field and a wider field of view, which is really cool. Now I want to show you guys something that's quite important. Here is a comparison between using a basic EF adapter and then a Viltrox Speedbooster on the Canon EOS M. You can see that with the Speedbooster, you're getting more light into the sensor and a wider field of view in comparison to the basic adapter. Now, for me personally, I prefer the look of the Speedbooster. I don't know, it has this 3-dimensional pop look to it, which I really love. And if you do find that you need the extra reach, just adapt a Teleconverter or just switch back to the normal adapter without the Speedbooster and you'll get back to your normal focal range. Alright, so now looking at the footage samples. The other week I went out to the zoo, it was a beautiful day, and I took a whole heap of videos using the modded Canon 55-250 on a Speedbooster and the Canon EOS M with raw video. And here's what I got. So this was all shot in 2.5K RAW mode, which has a crop around 3 times, and I have to say that I'm absolutely pleased with the footage coming out of this lens. Now, if you have this lens already, I think that it's personally a fantastic investment, especially if you have modded the Canon 10-18mm STM lens. This one produces the typical Canon colors, which are gorgeous, vibrant, and so true to life, which I absolutely love. If you're worried about sharpness, don't worry at all, because this one is a really sharp lens that is able to capture a lot of detail, and for the price it sells for, it really is a gem in the camera bag. There's some shots in here where if I just use the basic adapter, my exposure would be way under. I would get lots of noise in my footage, especially with these crop censored cameras. So to be able to put a speed booster on and get more light into the sensor, I was able to get more clean footage, especially for the darker parts of the image. If you're looking at shooting portraits with this lens, then you can also do so. I wouldn't recommend it, but I mean, you can do whatever you want with any lens that you choose. It's your choice. And here's a sample of a portrait that I shot. It has stabilization across all focal lengths, and the stabilization is rated up to 4 stops, so you're gonna get nice, smooth, handheld footage, especially if you're panning and stuff like that. Alright, so with this mod, there's one thing to be cautious about. I've tested this on the Viltrox and the Metabone Speedbooster, and there's one thing that I found in particular. Now, the one thing to be cautious about with this adapter is that only manual focus has worked for me. Stabilization works and such at all focal ranges, but if you're planning to shoot plain autofocus on your camera, such as the M50 or the M6 Mark II or the whatever camera you have, autofocus hasn't worked with this mod, even on the full frame Canon 5D Mark II. So if you're planning to shoot autofocus, then this lens will not be your go-to. For me, I personally shoot manual only, or majority of the time, and I found that the manual focus on this lens is super silky, buttery smooth. It just works so great. And if you don't shoot manual often, then maybe this is the opportunity to start getting into this stuff, because the manual focus on this lens is just so easy to use. You'll get really used to it in no time. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. That's the modded Canon 55-250. It takes like 5 minutes to mod this thing in the back of it. And for me, I think it's absolutely worth it. I'm happy with the purchase, especially with the fact that I've also modded the Canon 10-18mm STM lens. And so these things will work really well for crop censored cameras like the M50 or the Canon USM if you're using Magic Lantern RAW, or even the 5D Mark II with the Teleconverter. So all in all, I think the footage coming out of this looks great. You get that extra drop of light, a wider field of view, and then just take off the adapter and put the plain one if you want to get that extra reach. So it's like you're getting 2 different lenses in one. So all in all, fantastic. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.